history of a church being there, evidence of a Byzantine church, end of a Crusader church, and then this church from the last century, 1924. Prior to that, we were up at Dominus Flevit. That church was built in 1955. So these are very modern churches. Although there's been, there's evidence that the site had been observed since the 1st century. So maybe we are close to a traditional site, but we don't know. I wanted you to say, I think this view of olive trees here, and Dr. Gill noted the terracing as well. Look at the terracing over here. I think this view of olive trees is a much more natural setting. So we would expect these olives to kind of run up the slope. We'd expect olives all over here. And this would be very good olive growing conditions. And so, Mount of Olives, named after the olives that are on it, and a place of crushing the olives, Gethsemane. Brad asked a question that I really should answer for all of you, and that had to do, how do I know that Jesus was on the cross at the time of the slaying of the lambs? And it's a chronological issue. It's a problem in the Gospels, because John's chronology is the one where we get this suggestion. Passover celebrated, Jesus celebrates Passover a day early. The others seem to say he's celebrating the Passover on the night of the Passover, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Why would he celebrate a day early? We have various Judaisms at that time. You have those who are working with the lunar calendar. The majority of Judaism is working with the lunar calendar. The people at Qumran were working with a solar calendar. It's a good possibility that he's observing the Essene Passover, simply because he knows he's going to die on Passover, but he wants to celebrate one more time with his disciples because he has things to tell them, such as, I'm going to take this cup for the last time and not take it again until I meet with you in the kingdom. And such as often as you remember Passover, which is yearly, remember me by means of this cup, which represents the blood I'm going to shed for you, and by means of this bread, which represents the body that's going to be broken for you. The Lord's Supper cannot be separated. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with keeping it on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. We should remember him as often as we can. But it cannot be separated from Passover either. So, the two are linked together. Deuteronomy says, do this in remembrance. Jesus says, do this in remembrance. So he added additional meaning to a remembrance that was already had been celebrated for maybe 1,400 years, certainly to something that he, from his earliest memories, he would remember the family gathering on Passover. He would remember his father telling the story. This is what Passover is all about. Telling the children about the great rescue. God rescues his people. And that's what Messiah's work was, to rescue us in an entirely other venue. We are rescued before the throne of heaven, before the creator of the universe, because of the work of Messiah.
Yes.
Okay, so my brother does the chronological work. I just say, okay, I accept it. I don't really care for those sorts of of tensions. brother, on the other hand, says, I like the tensions in Scripture. It allows me to ask questions and allows me to... and so we tend to be following John's chronology when I say that, and we are saying that he celebrated a day early, and this is probably evidenced as well in that they don't have a Passover lamb at their meal, because it would have been inappropriate to have a Passover lamb, because it's not to be sacrificed until the 14th, and they would have had to sacrifice it too early. And in fact, a Passover lamb should not be on any Passover table at this time either, because there's no temple standing at which the lamb can be sacrificed. Okay? Let's continue.
Steve, what is this building right here in the middle?
This is St. Stephen's Church, because tradition says Stephen is stoned outside.